Hello, my fellow D&D YouTubers. My name is Dr. DM, and today I'm going to take you on a wild ride of rampant speculation as I'm going to take a clip in the Feats Unearthed Arcana video done by Dungeons & Dragons featuring Jeremy Crawford, lead designer. And there he talks about something really interesting, something unique that might be coming to D&D 1, and that is weapon abilities, weapon possibilities. Listen to what he says here.
Along with some new options for how to use weapons and have those weapons do things that they have not been able to do in the past. But that will be something we will delve into in great detail when we talk about the fighter, the barbarian, and the monk.
So you heard it right there. New options for how to use weapons and how to have weapons do things. Okay, so what does that mean? It's coming out with the Warriors Unearthed Arcana. Hopefully that'll be the next one. We'll see. But that got me thinking. How can we use weapons other than how we use them already in D&D, right? Currently, when you roll the hit, well, what happens? You roll the hit, you roll some damage, and that's kind of what you do. Whether that's 2 times, 3 times a turn. Now, if you're a really good role player, you're really into the D&D role play aspect, you can, of course, narrate your actions, right? Well, what happens? I jump on top of this table and swing with my sword, cleave down as I fall to the ground, Iron Man style, or what have you, right? But that's just flavor to what you're doing, which is just rolling to hit and rolling to damage, right? The damage is the same whether you make it really flashy or kind of a little more sterile, right? We're just rolling and then that's it to go through the motions. So what can they possibly add? Well, this got me thinking. I got a couple flags when I was going through the general Unearthed Arcana documents that have come out. And what really set off a big question mark for me was the recent Thief rework for the UA. The Thief subclass for the new Rogue for ONE D&D. What happened there? Well, it turns out that the Rogue Thief subtype gets 2 bonus actions, right? By 14th level or 13th level, it gets Thieves, Reflexes, where they get a second bonus action. I thought, where else in the D&D universe, D&D property franchise have I seen the Thief subclass get a second bonus action? Well, my friends, here it is. Here's the secret. So we are on the Baldur's Gate 3 wiki. Baldur's Gate 3 is a new game being produced by Larian, the makers of Divinity Original Sin, Original Sin 2, a few other games, RPGs, and they're making Baldur's Gate 3.
There's no point surviving these worms if we end up in a goblin stew. Let's just go. Something tells me I'll be whispering, "I told you so," to your corpse.
Through the expressed agreement with Wizards of the Coast, and they're working with the D&D team and so forth, making it as within a game sphere, as realistic as possible for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. But they've made their own changes, sometimes to fit the game mechanically, the video game mechanically, and sometimes, well, maybe it's just better changes for D&D as a whole. And here we go. Thief, Rogue subclass, the same we just saw in the UA, gets Fast Hands, which gives you an additional bonus action. That's right. Thieves in Baldur's Gate 3 get 2 bonus actions, just like Thieves in D&D 1 get 2 bonus actions, albeit at a higher level. So this got me thinking, is it possible that maybe Wizards of the Coast and the D&D team is kind of working back and forth with Larian or taking some ideas that they've already put together and using those to kind of shore up D&D 1, get some ideas, put it all together, and see what sticks. I thought, okay, if Fast Hands give additional bonus action here, there's something else that Baldur's Gate 3 has done, and that is weapon options. All right, so let's go to the weapons tab here, and you'll see that the weapons in Baldur's Gate 3, just like Jeremy Crawford described, have things they can do, kind of weapon skills, weapon abilities, right, that aren't just roll to hit and do damage. Okay, so here we have our first option, a battle axe, right, your typical slashing weapon. What can it do? Well, you see here 3 weapon skills, and now these take your whole action to do. The first one is cleave, and then lacerate, and then you have crippling strike. So maybe, just maybe, what Jeremy Crawford is talking about here, being able to have options for weapons, is these kind of weapon skills. I'm not saying they'll be exactly like they appear here in Baldur's Gate 3, but perhaps these will be kind of along the ideas of what they might do with a weapon. So you can either attack Or take your whole action, maybe instead of, if you get an extra attack, maybe you can't do that anymore. Maybe you can just do your main attack, this kind of weapon skill, and it might add to some diversity of combat, make it easier for newer players to do flashy things without necessarily being ready to do the whole roleplay aspect that we talked about earlier. They're doing giant sweeping cleaves or whatever. It's all built in here, and maybe this can add to some of the story elements by just doing these actions, right? And also makes combat a little more, dynamic. And I think we all want that. There's sometimes, even when monsters attack, right? You don't just want a monster always to attack if you're a DM, where they just kind of roll the hit and then roll the hit and they attack with a short sword, attack with a short sword. And Matt Colville has a really cool system coming out. It's monsters have kind of like villain actions, right? Where they don't just attack. Well, if they do that in addition to other cool actions or other cool skills that make the game just more diverse and kind of cinematic, right? And that's what we want for D&D. The roleplay experience, on top of having cool combat, in which this adds to. So let's take a look at some of these skills and think about how they might translate to D&D 1. And again, I'm not saying I don't have an uncle who works at Dungeons and Dragons, so I don't know if this is a reality. But given we've seen with Rogue and with Thief and a few other things related to that, maybe these are where the intention is going, right, for weapon options, if you will. Okay, so let's take a look here. Cleave. What does cleave do? Okay, so you swing your weapon in a large arc to attack up to 3 enemies at once. Takes your action, right? And this range 2 meters is simply melee range here for Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, interesting. Here we see something on the right too. Once for short rest, so that could be interesting. It's a little gamey, right? I can only cleave once for short rest, but maybe it's exhausting. So, to really put all that strength and oomph into a particular attack, so maybe that's a way to limit it, to not make this kind of option that too powerful, right? So that could be a way to limit it for these new options we're talking about. All right, so swing your weapon in a large arc to attack up to 3 enemies at once. We've had cleave before in other D&D editions, right? It's been a feat, usually cleave, where if you finish an enemy off, you can attack another one, and we have that kind of with Weapon Master as well. But this in and of itself, it's just a weapon skill. So you have a weapon, you can attack twice with it, or do like a fancy attack. And here, so attacking 3 enemies at once it's kind of overpowered, right? Maybe you won't have that at first, or maybe weapons also class up, right? Maybe like now they're doing feats at 4th level and 8th level, who knows? Maybe the weapon abilities or these weapon skills get stronger and stronger as you get stronger weapons, or as you get magic weapons, or as you get higher levels in one of the warrior classes or one of the expert classes or whatever. So, all right, there's cleave. Let's go back to weapon list and look at lacerate. All right, what's lacerate going to do here? And slash at an enemy to deal damage and possibly inflict bleeding. So here we have an attack save. It's a melee attack. It requires a con save. Am I blocking this? Well, either way, you see it a little bit. Let me scroll down. There we go. The recharges once for short rest, and just here's some text that undead and constructs can't bleed. Or can they? Or do they bleed oil or blue? So, okay, this is a attack which can inflict an extra, status effect here, which is bleed. Might do some damage over time, like maybe they'll take a d4 per turn, or maybe just you do an extra 1d8 damage of poison damage, right? Who knows? If it hits, and this one's for short rest, that may kind of make sense, because maybe you just quickly coat your weapon in some kind of poison, or who knows, or sharpen it with your whetstone, like Monster Hunter style. I don't know. Either way, it's just one of the interesting possibilities to look at here for what could be forthcoming with weapon options. Okay, cool. I would say that if you do this every time, right, it might slow the game down. Everybody has a weapon skill effect, but if it's limited to short rest, when you really have to kind of buckle down and decide, is this the best time to use this ability? Is there a boss here? Is there somebody that we want to, weaken in some way? So a good way to balance that would be kind of these recharges. And we already see that with monsters, right? We get that D6 or, recharge. There's a breath weapon on a 4 to 6 or something like that. So, okay, it's interesting. I think it could add some dynamic of combat. Here's Crippling Strike. All right, what happens here? Swing at an enemy's leg to deal damage and possibly cripple them. So that could be something like, they fall prone, for example. Kind of like the shove action. So, again, it's a con save. The more and more I'm reading this, I kind of see that could add cool flavor to combat. Now, I think the one thing you have to be careful with is having too many options, right? Once you get to higher level and your character sheet is just kind of filled to the brim with abilities and spells and feats and so forth, and you kind of forget what you can do, right? When you're like, okay, do you want to do this, or should I be doing something else? And So that could add to a lot of decision paralysis. But for low levels, I think this would really enhance combat, and especially cool for new players, because once you do this, right, once you engage or use your action for crippling strike, then what happens? Your DM can describe, okay, you swing down, and there, even for a new DM, without much effort or coercing, you kind of already know what to say, right? You take your battle axe and it slashes through the enemy's kneecaps. They fall to the knees and they slump forward. So, okay, pretty interesting. Let's see what else we got. All right, crippling strikes. These are still slashing weapons. All right, here we get to some bludgeoning weapons. So, concussive smash. Oh, you hit an enemy with all your might to deal damage and possibly daze them. So daze, I think, is kind of, in Baldur's Gate 3, they get disadvantage to hit, or something along those lines. Pretty cool. I do like the balancing here of the recharges. Yeah, another thing, but again, the only caveat I would have with this is there a way to track this more readily? Will it add too much to combat already? But con save and dazing them. So that could be, not necessarily like hold person or anything, but something like they get disadvantage for the next, until the beginning of your next turn or whatever. We've seen that kind of thing quite a bit. Okay, concussive smash. What else? Piercing strike. Okay, this is for, looks like, piercing weapons. All right. So what happens here? Stab an enemy to deal damage and possibly inflict gaping wounds, and that is a con save. And again, once per short rest. Let's look at gaping wounds. Okay, it's just a status effect. So blood. So some kind of other bleed effect, but in this case for piercing weapons. Okay. Other stuff for magic weapons that have even more unique abilities. I see that a lot in Baldur's Gate. That might be, well, I don't know. We don't see that with minor and major beneficial effects with certain magic weapons, so it's not another realm of possibility. Rush attack. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Let's see what that is. Rush attack is charge forward, attack the first enemy in your way, dealing damage and possibly pushing them off balance. Off balance might be a, who knows, again, prone, or push them away 5 or 10 feet or something. And dealing damage. Okay, so some kind of charge, which is already kind of, I think, an ability, or some classes get charge, or part of a feat. Either way, you might do an extra bit of damage as you charge. And there's a save here for strength. Once per short rest. Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. Pretty balanced. Right, and again, I could click on these for more details, but they're not listed here. And it's been, I played the early access beta when it first came out, and it's been a while, and I don't think these were all in there to begin with, but still pretty cool. So here we see cleave again, prepare. Okay, ooh, interesting. What's prepare? Let's see. I think that might just be a kind of hold action. Spend, your movement to deal additional damage with your melee weapon for the rest of the turn. Okay, so I guess you just kind of like steal yourself in place, and as the enemy charges forward, you take what would have been your momentum. It's just a kind of, you give speed to do more damage. It's, a gamey effect. All right, and a few other things. Let's get to some bow weapons here. Oh, pommel strike. Is that just like pistol whip or something? Pommel strike. You make a range attack after you dash or disengage. Huh. Really cool for rogues now in the new ONE D&D situation. So, because you can dash and disengage as a bonus action. As you do it, you just kind of like throw your spear at the very end. It's cool. Get to some range weapons here, and let's see what we got here. Okay, hand crossbow, piercing shot, and mobile shot. Let's look at this. Look at piercing shot first. Shoot an enemy and give him a gaping wound. Okay, so kind of another DOT. It's damage over time effect. And mobile shot. So let's see what mobile shot is. Make a ranged attack while moving. Well, you can already do that, but I do like the implications here of the roleplay aspect of it. Now, I don't know how they would incorporate this into D&D RPG proper, but just think about it thematically. As you're running with your dual crossbows, you're halfway through and there's enemy, right? You're shooting as you attack, and this just gives you a narration effect built in with extra possibilities of, damage or flare or whatever you want it to be. So, okay, piercing shot, piercing strike. I think we saw it already. It's like a concussive smash. Oh, hamstring shot. All right. Oh, is this a? I got. What's oh gosh, it's Skyrim of Oblivion. Took an arrow to the knee, and I'm no longer an adventurer or what have you. All right, so shoot an enemy in the thigh, specifically the thigh, to deal damage and possibly reduce the movement speed by 50%. Oh, cool. Okay, so yeah, I think there's already. I mean, you have cantrips, right? Like frostbite or freezing, whatever cantrip is that has movement speed. So okay, yeah, I with a save and the short rest for recharge. I feel like this is kind of pretty balanced. If they're going to already add this, well, a way to balance it, right, would be to do the save, to do the recharge, but still keep that option on the table, especially for low-level combat. And let's be frank, honest here. Most of the players that play D&D play low level, right? Whether it's Adventure League, whether your campaign putters out after level 5 or 7 or 10 or whatever. Having these options at the beginning, I think it's really going to help diversify your character. Like, oh, what if I play this particular bard, but maybe I'm not so useless in combat because I'm not saying bard's useless in combat, but instead of relying on spells, you have all these weapons you can use. I mean, you're like a weapon master. You swap between weapons, right, depending on what the situation calls for. So if you need to stop an enemy from escaping, well, what do? You get out your longbow and you fire off this hamstring shot, right? So pretty cool. Rush attack we've seen, pommel strike we've seen. So it looks like we've been through most of the weapon skills here. Ooh, backbreaker for these large two-handed weapons. What's this do? Put extra force behind your strike to deal damage and possibly knock your enemy prone. Oh, here specifically prone. Cool. And who knows what kind of extra damage that could be. That could scale per level. That could be, as I said earlier, based on the plus modifier of your weapon. Heartstopper. Well, that sounds deadly. Okay. Well, good for the club. Smash an enemy's chest to deal damage and possibly inflict chest trauma. Okay. All right. Con save, look for short rest. I'm not sure chest trauma is a very specific attribute or modifier or condition or whatever. I'm not sure if D&D has this many conditions, because it's kind of hard to track conditions in an RPG game versus, a tabletop game or a board game where you have all those little, tokens or whatever you can throw on characters or, monsters. So I like it, but maybe there's a way to kind of dial that down so there's not so many things to do. Maybe, and if it's just this extra damage, that's also a little lame because that doesn't add much other than the flavor of description. Maybe that's what they're going for, or it could be part of the warrior packages, right? So, okay. Although I would like it if these weapon skills were available to more classes than just the warrior class. It'd still be cool to have these kind of possibilities for a low-level sorcerer or wizard or whatever, so they feel like they can be useful even if they run out of like spell slots. If you're like dungeon crawling or whatever, or you're a blade singer, right, and you do melee most of the time, even though you are a wizard. All right, what do we got? Topple. Let me guess. Prone. Haha, called it. Okay, and flourish. Weakening. All right, these will be the last two we'll look at because you kind of get the idea of what can be done with weapon options. Prone, so the creature prone. There's lots of prone. And finally, for this flourish, we have short rest, dex save, feint, and attack to possibly throw your enemy off balance. So that's kind of cool. And this is a bonus action, so okay, interesting. I wonder if we'll see these weapon options that Jeremy Crawford talked about. He specifically said weapon options, so I wonder if they're going to be kind of delegated to either attack or a bonus action or even a reaction, right? And really kind of help you have multiple options for your character, right? That's the idea. All right, well, this has been an exploration of the possibilities of this weapon options quote that is being talked about now. Maybe not everyone's caught up on this or caught it during the video. I did. So hopefully it's invaluable to the community. If you like these guys I'm putting forward, leave me a like, leave a comment down below. Your comments have been really, really cool in the other videos, really helping me come to better terms of what is there that we've seen and what is there that can change and what is good and what's not. So leave those comments and subscribe here to Green and Garb. We do this kind of stuff and really awesome, epic, actual plays and podcasts. So thank you for watching. See you next time.